Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So today I'm going to talk to you about how a lot of Black women actually love light-skinned femininity stereotypes. So I've already proven on this channel earlier that the Black women empowerment creators who supported Pinky Doll, that is proof that they do not want to end colorism. They simply want to be able to benefit from colorism. If you haven't seen my Pinky Doll video, please be sure to check that out. But I say this all the time. Anytime that an unambiguous woman on YouTube starts talking about colorism and trying to end colorism, quote unquote, have you ever noticed that whenever you ask, like, okay, how can we end colorism? Usually the solution is, oh, we want to get dates or we want to be seen as desirable. Okay, so just admit you don't care about social justice, you care more about social status. So it's not that you're actually mad that people benefit off of their skin color, it's that you're mad that you don't benefit off of yours. And so you're really fighting to be able to gain pretty privilege or whatever skin tone privileges you can with your skin tone. And so the next time somebody gets mad at you for celebrating your light skin tone or for loving your skin tone, that means that they technically cannot argue and say that you're being colorist because that person is allowed to love their skin tone. But do you guys remember the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? And do you remember Hillary Banks? She was kind of this stuck-up bougie girl. She was like the rich, pretty girl. She embodied all of the positive stereotypes that I personally love being associated with. I have no problem being seen as stuck-up, bougie, or thinking I'm cute, being shallow, or being the shallow, pretty girl, because number one, I can't control what people think of me anyway. But if I had to choose what negative qualities to have, I'd rather be perceived as those things than be perceived as a victim. So notice how people say it's colorism if you are acting shallow and whatever, thinking you're cute, but then the same group of women jumped for joy when Coco Jones replaced the original Hillary, or when Coco Jones was cast as the Hillary in the new Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So that's proof that they don't actually think that it's colorist to associate skin tones with being stuck up or being bougie. They just wanted to have that position for themselves. But I wanted to get into a little bit of comment foolery. This was found on my favorite website, Krusty Lip Alley. If you have a psychology channel or an exotical channel, Lipstick Alley is the psychological jackpot. But this person says, growing up, I never thought of Hillary Banks as beautiful and light-skinned. I always thought she was a bougie, stuck-up hussy. If anything, I thought she was a scarecrow in designer threads. Well, at the end of the day, she's still a scarecrow, scaring the birds, no matter what she wears. What I did appreciate is that Hillary was representation that Black girls can be high class and vapid. We don't exist in a monolith. Okay, so she starts the paragraph by taking shots at the actual actress who plays Hillary Banks. So she's saying that, hey, I don't think that you're beautiful. I think that your character is a hussy, and I think you look like a scarecrow. Oh, but I actually like the character. Okay, so that is the exact definition of jealousy. It is when you want to throw shade at that person who is put in that position, but then you admit later on that you actually like that position, and you like the fact that somebody is being seen as kind of this stuck-up, carefree type of girl. And then she says, now if you want to talk about beauty, I always thought that was Ashley Banks. And so she complimented another fellow exotical, Tatiana Ali, who is mixed race. But have you noticed this tactic where whenever they want to humble one exotical, they will compare you to another exotical? So she's triangulating. She's triangulating the light-skinned mixed chick versus the darker mixed chick, saying, hey, this darker mixed girl is prettier than her, or I like her better. So I notice they do this all the time, even here on YouTube. People try to do this with our YouTube channels in this space. They'll say, well, you're not even mixed race, or well, you're dark skinned. Oh, well, you're light skinned and look like a scarecrow, but your other mixed race counterpart who's darker, she looks better than you. So once again, this is a humbling tactic. But then notice how in the next sentence, she admits, I wanted to have hair like hers, wear the same clothes, and have that rich, cool chick attitude. And it wasn't on some relating because she is dark skinned. She was just cool and pretty, while Hillary was always looking like a bird. So notice their emotional attachment to the darker skinned mixed race women with the looser hair textures. Has anybody else noticed that? They have this extreme emotional attachment to light skinned monoracial Black women. They don't like that light skinned monoracial women are relating to this channel. There's this attachment to the dark skinned mixed race women and kind of wanting to approximate yourself to them. And now instead of talking about the actual role, now they begin arguing about skin tones, of course. And so somebody says, Ashley Banks is not dark skinned. And then somebody said, yeah, she kind of almost is. Will, talking about Will Smith, is high brown. So instead of high yellow, it's high brown. So do you see how there is this obsession in the dark-skinned, unambiguous Black community with all of the different nuances of skin tones that are not their own? I mean, don't get me wrong, I guess if it's within context and you're talking about like skin tones or talking about your own skin tone, but all of this random arguing about skin tones. So Will is high brown, caramel, and her husband is high yellow, light skin, and she is darker than both, and that's okay. So now she's pulling up pictures of Tatiana Ali to try to compare her skin tone to other light-skinned people and other mixed race people, because Tatiana Ali's husband, I believe he's mixed race, and so she's now pulling up pictures of Tatiana Ali, comparing her to a light-skinned Black guy and a mixed race high yellow guy. And then this girl says a lot of her press pics had on foundation 2 shades too light, or were photoshopped to make her look like NC-45 when she is more of a coffee complexion. You hair-struck Bamas stay trying to make darker-skinned women with type 2 hair textures light-skinned when they're not. So somebody just a couple of paragraphs up said that Ashley Banks is dark-skinned. Then somebody randomly argues and says, no, she's not. And now we've got a third person randomly coming on and saying, oh, Tatiana Ali wears foundation that's too light. And have you ever noticed that whenever it's a darker-skinned exotical, they love accusing her of wearing foundation that is too light-skinned for her complexion? And there also seems to be this mindset of if you have a deeper complexion, there's no way that you could naturally have a caramel complexion without a tan. So I remember they did the same thing to Chili. Chili from TLC, she also obviously tans to dark skin, just like how Tatiana Ali is. But a lot of people, they don't understand that darker skinned mixed race people are just like everybody else and they can get a little bit lighter in the winter. And also, how does this person know that Tatiana Ali was wearing foundation shade NC-45? And if she was, what's wrong with that? So do you see how they're desperately trying to pull Tatiana Ali in and out of unambiguous Blackness as they do all the time with darker skinned mixed race women? So I pulled up this comment on another Coco Jones Hillary Banks video, and this girl says, good, only positive promotion for dark skinned Black women. So notice how people had a problem, or they were talking shit about the original Hillary, who was a light-skinned woman, but then when a dark-skinned woman gets that same role that was supposedly a stupid-ass role and it's idiotic and she looks like a scarecrow, now suddenly that a dark-skinned woman is playing it, oh, well, good, this is positive promotion. So this is proof that a lot of these talking points are really based on jealousy. It's not based on the fact that these different privileges exist. I've noticed that a lot of dark-skinned Black women, they're not mad that pretty privilege exists. They're not mad that people gain privilege from their skin tone. They simply want to have the same privileges for their skin tone. So once again, this proves my point that this is not about social justice. It is simply about social status. So even another dark-skinned Black woman called this person out. She says, what's wrong with being a ditzy, carefree, rich, dark-skinned woman? I have my moments of ditz, but I am rather carefree, well-off, and dark-skinned. It's not a negative stereotype. She is portraying a type of Black woman that is less seen, so I'm confused at what was negative about the role of the original Hillary. Maybe she is overthinking it because Hillary was a fun, positive character on Fresh Prince. So even this unambiguous woman is calling out the hypocrisy. Like, wait, so how was it that the original Hillary was bad, but then the dark-skinned Hillary, which is the same exact role, is suddenly good? I've also noticed that people have a tendency to stereotype carefree, beautiful women as being dumbasses and being shallow. And then it's like, if they had the opportunity to care about their looks or to soak up their privilege or to be perceived as pretty and carefree, then suddenly it's a good and positive thing, a positive representation. Okay, so this is proof that, once again, this is more so about you simply wanting to take the place or have the same quote-unquote pedestal that these lighter-skinned or mixed-race actresses had. So just admit that you're not mad that I have a pedestal. You're simply mad because you want a pedestal for yourself. And also, being carefree is not a bad thing. Being carefree really just shows that you have nothing to prove. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to prove how pretty you are, how smart you are. Being ditzy, that just means that, in my opinion, being ditzy is really you're carefree. You are able to laugh off your mistakes. Like if you're clumsy or something, you're able to laugh it off. You're a good sport. You have a very carefree type of attitude. But people want to stereotype it as, oh, well, you're ditzy. It's like, no, I'm just pretty and I did something clumsy and I'm able to laugh about it. And you don't like that because you don't feel like you have the social power to be able to be ditzy, because you actually believe that if you have a ditzy moment, that you will forever be stereotyped as being at the bottom. And I don't live with that type of victim narrative on my life. I don't believe that my flaws disqualify me from success. I don't believe that my flaws disqualify me from being desirable. I don't believe that my flaws invalidate me. But I've noticed that people with inferiority complexes have this mindset where they are not allowed to show any of their flaws. And so then they want to shame the pretty girl or the privileged girl. They want to shame her for showing her flaws. Have you ever noticed that people with inferiority complexes have this urge to try to chase perfection? So they want to be seen with like the perfect hairstyle, edges perfectly laid, wig perfectly laid, makeup is laid, body is perfect, personality is perfect. And I've noticed oftentimes that is rooted in a deep-seated inferiority complex. Anyone with actual confidence has no problem admitting their hypocrisies or their flaws or their problematic behaviors. Anybody who doesn't feel the need to prove themselves has no problem with people seeing their own flaws and like double standards. But I've noticed that people were so harsh on the original character of Hillary, saying like, oh, she has all these negative qualities, she's so vapid and shallow and looks like a scarecrow. And then when the dark-skinned Hillary, Coco Jones, when she gets the role, not only is she celebrated because they're like, oh, yay, a dark-skinned woman gets to be carefree. But then after she actually plays the role, then suddenly they got mad because Coco Jones wanted the character to be more headstrong and smart. And so then they're mad saying, oh, well, why does she want her to be headstrong and smart? Why are you trying to make it like every dark-skinned black woman has to be headstrong and smart? So do you see the double standards? Do you see that mindset of never being satisfied and nothing is ever enough? Nothing is ever perfect enough? That comes from an inferiority complex. Never thinking you're good enough. No matter what you do, it's not good enough. No matter what you look like, it's not good enough. No matter how much you do your hair and your makeup, it's not good enough. And then this person says, her portrayal of Hillary is perfect. The world and television at large need to see at least one character that is a dark-skinned female who defies all stereotypes. Plus, Coco Jones is just dope. So notice how this person admits that skin tone stereotypes exist. But whenever I admit that light skin stereotypes exist, people suddenly want to come on my channel and say, oh, well, this is so ignorant. No, they don't. Nobody stereotypes people who are light skinned. There are no light skin stereotypes. Anybody who stereotypes based on skin tone is an idiot. And it's like, well, yeah, that may be true, but people do stereotype skin tones. So just like how they stereotype dark skin, there are also stereotypes of light skin. The only difference is that some of the stereotypes of light skins are positive stereotypes. So the problem is not the stereotyping in and of itself. The problem is that these dark-skinned black women on Lipstick Alley want to be portrayed with the positive skin tone stereotypes. So do you see the hypocrisy once again? And also, have you ever noticed how, let's say you're a pretty girl or you have some sort of privilege, if you practice self-preservation or if you practice social climbing, putting yourself first, putting your phenotype first, doing things that benefit you, then suddenly you're a bitch and you're toxic and, oh, you're just a clout chaser. But then other people who are shaming you for clout chasing are doing the exact same thing. This person says Hillary was kind of a bitch at times, and I think she's aware that as a dark-skinned woman, she wouldn't be able to get away with certain behaviors, even when fictional. But still, do you see how they're putting even this actress, they're putting a multi-millionaire actress and Grammy Award winner, Coco Jones, in a box, saying that because she's a dark-skinned woman, when she's playing the role, she's not able to get away with being bitchy like the original Hillary, who was light-skinned. So do you see how a lot of times these women are doing it to themselves? So it's not other people that are projecting all of these things. They have all these internalized limitations on themselves. Like, oh, I can't be seen with my 4C hair being short. I can't be seen wearing a suit and tie. I'm not allowed to portray any bitchy qualities on TV because then it's going to look bad. So do you see how some of these women have the mindset of kind of like carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, carrying every other dark-skinned, black, unambiguous person who's ever existed, carrying everybody else on their shoulders. So I have to try to be as perfect as possible, but then nothing is ever perfect enough. enough at the same time. So do you see the extreme inferiority complex coming out? And do you see how inferiority complexes don't allow you to be a multifaceted, multidimensional human being? Because I've noticed this pattern where women who have these inferiority complexes, they don't allow themselves to show a range of emotions. They're only allowed to show anger or maybe rage, or maybe they just have to stay silent. They're not allowed to have all of these different sides of themselves. And so even if you look at the comments, she says she's still sassy, a bit vain, and fits the look perfectly, and is still a material girl, just not as ditzy, that's all. So it's like, okay, everybody else is allowed to be ditzy sometimes, except if you're a dark-skinned black woman. Like, do you see the internalized limitations that are coming out just right here in this sentence? And then she says, to be honest, they made Hillary straight up stupid at times, in a way that might come across as dated in current times. Well, that's not true. They've got plenty of stupid characters that are still in the media today. Avantika, the Indian chick who was in Mean Girls, she played a character that was just kind of like the pretty, vapid, ditzy, dumb girl. So it's like, why are you guys putting these internalized limitations on yourself? So do you see what I mean with that mindset of, oh, I'm limited, but then nothing is still ever good enough. And other women of other races and phenotypes are allowed to be whatever they want, but then I can't. Oh, but now I'm mad at you for putting me in a stereotype. And it's like, no, you're stereotyping yourself. We've got another black woman here saying, parading around in her lingerie for her IG content, which would be considered as playing into the oversexed black woman stereotype. What did she have to say about that? It's not everybody that needs to be heard. So now they're coming for Coco Jones personally for showing pictures of herself in lingerie on Instagram. So once again, do you see what I mean? How it's mostly the black community, the unambiguous community themselves, who are putting all these limitations on themselves and on other women of their own phenotype. But what do you ladies think? Have you ever been accused of being colorist, texturist, or featurist when in reality that person is actually colorist, texturist, or featurist against themselves? What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.